Hello, my crafty friends. Guess what? I did it again. Toilet paper roll crafting. Oh my goodness. This is a mixed media mass making for your pleasure. Okay, guys, this is our Take 5 mixed media collaboration. This is hosted by Jeannie with Jeannie's Palette and Christy with Funky Junk Inspiration. Their channels will be linked in my description box below, as well as a playlist to the other creators that are joining this collaboration. Now, talk about mixed media. Do I have a treat for you? Let's use some of our recycling pleasures. Recycling treasures, not pleasures. Okay, look at what I'm going to create for you today. Look at these pockets. They can go on journals. They can go on journals. You can put them wherever you want. They're great little paper clips if you want to use it as a bookmark. Oh, they turned out adorable. Let me show you what we did.
Okay, so I am going to start with something we probably all have already. Now, if for some reason you don't have access to this, please let me know how. I'd like to get on that bandwagon. It is a never-ending necessity. So, let's get started on some embellishment pockets for your journals, for tags, for gifts, for storage, for whatever you want to use them for. And we are going to do this mixed media style. So, first thing I want is I'm going to actually wipe these down, and I have my little heat press heating up so that I can get these wiped, pressed, and ironed so they are flat. So we're going to take our wipe and we're just going to wipe down our little tube. And you know, this is up to you. If you're making it for yourself, that is totally up to you. However, because some of my stuff I do sell, I want to make sure there's no living bacteria on here. These do come from your bathroom. And if you ever were in a science class where they actually showed you what happens when a toilet flushes, you would do the same thing. So I am just going to iron this down. If you use paper towel holders, it is not a big deal. I'm actually just using this paper on top right now because my cardboard was wet from the Clorox wipe. And I'm just flipping those over. Get that ironed on down there. And here's all the ones I finished already. So, if you want to know how I created my little box here, it's not done yet, but this is perfect when I'm doing my little mass makes. As I get items done, I can just set them on into a box off to the side until I'm ready for the next step for that one. So, let's move on to the next step. So for the next step, I am going to use a circle punch, a corner chomper, my ruler, my blade, some hot glue, and some ink. Now, if you don't have a corner chomper, you don't have to chomp the corners, or you can create one. This is just a piece of extra card I can keep in there, and these are just little tag corners with different shapes. Like this is, both of those are just curved, and then both of these are just long straight edges. So you can actually lay this on there and cut that, and then flip it over, match it up, and cut that, and you're going to have the same exact cuts on both sides. So you can do that. And that I just measured and went like, the long one is 1 inch and 1 inch, and then cut, and the other is 3/4 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch and cut. And those are, this one I just used, what did I use for this one? This little corner here is just the edge of my little dauber. So it doesn't matter what you use to create your little circles. Just use what you have. It doesn't matter. So for these, I am going to just use my chomper. So I'm just going to come in with my 1/2 inch side, and the crocodile, it does not struggle going through this tissue paper roll. Easy breezy, it's done. I don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to just come in and just chomp the corners on all of my pieces, just like that, and have those done. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the front part of my tube here and measure it down at 1/2 inch. I've done some at 1 centimeter, and you know, so you can either do your centimeter side and do it about 1 centimeter down. Most of us here in the US do use the inches, so we're just going to come on down and mark this at 1/2 inch, and mark this at 1/2 inch. And then I have a piece of card that I actually just slide in, and I'm going to come in with my ruler, my metal ruler, and my blade. I'm going to line up my marks at my 1/2 inch line, and come in and slice. Now that will, I'm going to do that one more time here. Measure it at the 1/2 inch, come in with your metal ruler, your blade, and slice. Now, if you're handier with the scissors, use your scissors, mark it, because I need to come in with my scissors anyway, and come and snip down to that 1/2 inch mark right there. And now you can either fold it or use your knife to slice that off. And a little hanger there, and that's okay. Once I get all those cut off like that, I'm going to come in with my hole punch. Now this, I have a plain hole punch, guys, but this was easy access, so I'm using it. It's not a big deal. This is one that has the decorative edge. If you look though, it has an arrow here showing you right where the middle is of that circle. It has it on the other side as well, and it has it on the front. So all I need to do is I'm going to slide my card into that, just like that, basically sliding that into your pocket. I am going to line up my lines to my 1/2 inch mark, so I know I'm right in the center there, and I'm going to look at that and make sure that I'm right in the center. Now you can measure and mark it if you want to be precise. This works for me. Just press it, and now I have my chomp out of that. This is where I'm going to come in, and I'm just going to use my hot glue on the bottom part here. Does not take much. And then come in with your bone folder or a spatula or your hands and push that out. Because this is cardboard, a very thin cardboard, hot glue is going to work just fine. And then we move on to the next step, which is inking it. Once you get this all done, punched, and inked, you have it looking like this. You can stop there. You know I'm not going to. So let me finish getting these punched and inked and glued, and I'll be back to show you what I do with these pockets. Okay, so I've got these all glued, punched, and I inked the ones that didn't have anything showing on the back side. Like this has got the numbers on the cardboard itself, so I'm just set those aside. The rest of them I went ahead and inked, and there was only 4. This one does show a little bit, so so I'm going to ink these, and we're going to put those aside in my box. Now with these, I did not ink them yet because I want to go and do a few different things to these. So first thing I'm going to do is, you know how I love my hidden paper clips. So let's do a few of those with some hidden paper clips. I had another little stash of scrap paper that I hadn't put away yet, and so I just went ahead and grabbed out some pieces that I knew would be big enough to cover these. And like, I love this with the butterfly, but it's not big enough to go all the way around both sides. However, it would be perfect to do a front and a back like doing these. I think that would be gorgeous. Now, what if you don't have any special tools and you just have some scraps? Not a problem. I have got 3 pieces of scrap here. I have two measuring at 3 1/4 inch by 3 3/4 inch, and I have two of those, and then I have one at 1 1/4 by 3 1/4. And what we're going to do is these are going to just be placed on here individually. So let's go ahead and we'll start, and I want the lines to line up so I know that these are all going to line up because I actually cut them that way. But it doesn't have to be. They can be mismatched papers that you think go well. It does not matter. So the first thing I am going to do is go ahead and glue my first panel on to my paper roll pocket. So I'm going to start and just glue all the way at the top. Now I can just come in and I'm going to line this up at the very top of my pocket, and this is going to give me about 1/4 inch on each side and then some down at the bottom. So I want to make sure I'm lined up at the top of my pocket. And come in and burnish that down. I don't want it to stick to the other side, so I'm just going to come in with a piece of card here that I use as my divider when I cut. And I'm just going to burnish this down, pushing that glue out to the edges of my paper. Now I can come in and trim off some little corner pieces here so that I can actually fold this and not have any excess bulk. And so that's all I'm doing, is cutting out some notches. So if you have scissors, glue, and toilet paper rolls and paper, you can do this. So I just cut those out, and I'm going to now come in with my art glitter glue again. I didn't score this, I didn't fold this. All I'm going to do now is roll it. I can come on up and press that down with my fingers. You can use a spatula, you can use a bone folder, you can use your hand, you can use a Cricut tool, you can use a stamp block, whatever you want to use to push that glue down. It doesn't have to be a special tool. And I'm going to do the same on these other sides. Now that front pocket's done. I will come in and use my circle punch to punch that out, but you don't have to. You can leave it just like that if you want, or you can come in with a punch, which is what I plan on doing, and popping this out. Okay, so there we have that piece. Now for the back, what I want to do is I want to line those up so that they're coming right up on that. So in order to do that, what I can do is I can line it up here, just like that, and then I can come in and mark it with a pencil, a pen, a bone folder. You don't have to use anything special, but I know I'm going to need to trim that off just on the inside of where that line is. So now I can come in with my scissors and just cut straight up that line. I don't do well cutting straight lines, never have, but there we have it. You don't need a blade. Now I can turn this over and I can line those up and know that that is just going to fit right on that frame. So I'm going to lay some at the top, right on through here. And then on the bottom, right here. Now I can line these up, bring it right to that top part, and burnish that down. All right, so there's what we have. I'm just going to come in and trim that off now. And now all I have left is the little tab to go over the front and tuck down into my pocket. Okay, so that's all that's left here. So I'm going to line that up again, just like this. Right where I want it to be, and now I can come in. You can use your pen. Just come in here and know that that's where I need to start and trim that off to begin with. Now this is going to tuck in here. So I want this to be at an angle. Once I go down just about a 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to angle it in. Same on this side. I'm going to come down about a 1/2 inch and then angle it in. And so this should fit nicely here. Okay, and it actually lines up so nice. Look at that. So now I'm going to go ahead and first put my paper clip on. I'm going to line that up. Give that a little squeeze in there first. Okay, that on the inside. Now I'm going to load this up with glue. Push it in, line it up. Now I think that was easier than trying to do it in one full swoop. And now I'm just going to come in and ink those edges, and then this one will be ready to decorate. Okay guys, look at this mess. It is a mixed media collaboration, so I had to bring out some fun stuff to play with. These here are my homemade alcohol ink spritz. This is marker pieces that I cut up in the tips, and I put them in my little mister bottle and then filled it with alcohol. And this gives me alcohol spritzer sprays made from scratch. It just cost me some alcohol, the bottles, and some inexpensive markers. And then I have some plain alcohol here in this bottle. You see here, I've made a bunch of these up. I've had these for a long time. And then I have just some others that I've had in my stash for some time when Tuesday morning was still, oh my goodness, this is old. This is old stuff. Probably 10 years old. I have some Nouveau mica misters. I have some other misters I've had for a while. You can see the mica powder at the bottom, so this is going to give you a shimmer mist. And the bottles can get clogged up, so just make sure you keep them clean after you're done. I have some different pastes from over the years. If they do get dry, you can mix in some distilled water, get it mixed up, get a nice creamy consistency again. And I have some Nouveau drops and pearlescent. We've got some glitter drops, some glossy accents type stuff, and this is just a small portion of what I have. I had a kit with them for years. I have some cheesecloth. I have a bunch of different plastic off of produce, your avocados, your lemons, your plums, onions, ham, off your meats, anything that has a netting on it. I run it through my dishwasher, and then I use it in crafting.
I'm going to need some gloves because it's going to get messy. And I went and I grabbed my stencils, and I just pulled out my little ring there and pulled out that so I could get some textures on some of these items. All right, guys, so I picked out my stencils, and I'm going to start with the ones that the pockets that I didn't put any paper on. I'm coming in with those misters and some colors that I just really love, which are going to be my burgundies and my pinks and my rose, and I'm just spritzing those, and then they dry really fast, and I will go ahead and do the same thing on the back side that I do on the front. And this is easily cleaned up with some clear alcohol spray, clear alcohol spray, just some regular alcohol, and you can see I'll just take that, spray that there, and it just wipes right up off my mat. And do the same thing again. I'm going to start with the darker color first this time, and it just gives you just a different layering effect. I don't care if it gets like blotchy right there because it doesn't matter. This is supposed to be just very shabby. And these actually have some mica powder in them, so it does give you a little bit of glimmer on there. Those aside and let them dry as we come in with the next ones. This product is by Nouveau and it is an embellishing mousse. When it dries, it actually expands, so it actually gives you a texture on there. I'm using the stencil. I'll be using the same stencil on all of the ones I'm putting this mousse on. And I'm just going to lay this down, and I've started out with a popsicle stick. I eventually just start using my finger because it really doesn't matter. I've got my gloves on just for that reason. But I'm just going to come in and I'm going to lay that down, move that stencil to another location. There you go. There's my fingers, and then put some more on it. Now, this won't take long to dry either, so you set it aside before you flip it over so that you can do the opposite side as well. So now these can just be set aside and let them dry, and I'll come back in and we'll flip those and do the front sides later. Okay, so now we have our Nouveau drops, and I wanted to use some gold because that butterfly had some gold. And this is a glitter one, and it comes out so nice. Now, I always put a little on my workspace first, so I know I don't have a big clump coming out on my project. And I'm just dotting this randomly around my little pocket here to give some extra detail. And then I will set that one aside. That will not take long to dry either. I will flip those over and do more on the back side. I love this little pink mat, which is great for this little pink rose pocket here. Just beautiful. And then I used a stone. The other is a stone drop by Nouveau. And I used that on that beautiful vintage advertising there. So just dab a little off there. You can tell the different tips. That pink one has a very fine tip, so you're going to get fine little dots unless you squeeze harder. So it's all in your control, in your hand, and how hard you are squeezing. So if you want to practice first. It's your project. I'm going to pull that netting and my cheesecloth, and I'm just going to cut a section of this cheesecloth off. And of course, it is too bright white for me. So I thought I would try to ink some of it, but my inks are needing to be re-inked, so I didn't do that. But I just cut my strips off of my cheesecloth, cut a strip off of my plastic netting, and now I'm going to show you how I tried to do my ink, but look at that. There's like nothing there. It's awful. I used that cheesecloth just to clean up my little ink mess, and I pulled in this little Huey spritzer, and I am going to put gloves on for this because it will be a little messy. And this worked perfect. Use your stash. This was perfect. It looks like tea dye, and all I had to do was spritz that on there, and then I just wiped that up, cleaned off that a little bit, and then I just stretched it out, opened it up, and let it dry. Perfect. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull in some other embellishments here. These were sent to me by a wonderful subscriber, and it's just some really pretty wispy yarn pieces, and she wrapped them around some playing cards, and I'm just going to come in, and I picked this color because I thought it matched really nice with those sprays that I put on there and that cardboard color. So I'm just laying this down with some hot glue across the front, and then I'm just going to dab that down, lay that on there, and trim it off. Once that little bottom piece was glued down, I went ahead and did the same thing across the back and around that front lip where I had chomped that off to show the pocket. So I just laid a little hot glue along the back and down into that little circle punch right down in there and glued that little piece of yarn right in and along the top edge of that pocket and around to the back and gave it a little cut to make it nice and even. And we will call this one done. So these two, I'm going to use some of this netting on. They have the white in it, and I thought this netting would just help emphasize that white. I am using my Beacons 3-in-1 to put this netting on, and I'm just dabbing it where that net is actually attached together, where it's melted together. And I'm just going to lay that on there and then just kind of dab it so I know that I don't have any excess laying around anywhere, and this is going to hold it right in place. To go ahead and do the same thing on the other one while that one is drying, and I'm going to actually do this one at a little bit of an angle, so it'll be just a little different. But once again, putting that Beacons 3-in-1 on the spots where that mesh netting is actually melted together, laying that down, and then I'm going to wrap it around going up, and I'll glue it right on those edges there so it can grab on as I wrap this totally around this pocket. It does take a little bit more effort with this plastic netting because it's plastic and it's fiddly, but it turned out really pretty. I'm just going to go ahead and wrap that around, adding a little bit of glue here and there to make sure that that is not going to go anywhere. Once those were dry, I came in with some lace that I had, and I'm just going to add some of this pink lace and wrap it right around the center of where I laid that mesh on my card. And that is just going to give it just a little bit more pop. I know you can't see it real well on here, the color, but it is a nice pink ribbon laying across that white that white mesh, and I'm just hot gluing it down. For this one, I used some of the darker lace with some white, and I created a rolled lace rose. I have a video on how I make my rolled roses. I'll leave that link below. And I just glued that rolled rose I made out of the same ribbon and glued that to the front of that pocket. Now I needed to knock this back just a little bit because it was a little stark for me. So I just came in with some frayed burlap distressed oxide ink. Now it's time to play with that cheesecloth. This is so nice. I love the way this turned out. So I'm going to take some and just wrap it around the bottom of this one, the one with the advertisement. And I'm laying that glue down around the back, and then I can bring it around front and just wrap it around and glue that down. That's all that takes, but I was not going to stop there. This was beautiful, and I thought it needed just a little bit more. So I took that same cheesecloth there and tied a bow, just a nice simple finger bow right there, tied it and cut off the ends so I had tails that were even, and then hot glued that right down onto that corner of that pocket. Oh, I love it. So simple, so shabby, so adorable. Ah, yes. I come in with some more of that cheesecloth, and I just take this one and tie a bow around it. I didn't even glue it on there. It doesn't take much, guys. Just whatever. And look how much that just brought that to life, having that little bow tied on there.
Well, y'all, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this mixed media project I created for y'all. And I think that these turned out great. You don't have to do much to them. You can spritz them, leave them as is, tuck them in a journal. You can just cover them with some card, add a paper clip. You can just cover them with card. You can add anything you want to it. Some yarn, some cheesecloth, all kinds of things. You can just take a piece of ribbon and tie a bow around it. You don't have to get all fancy with this stuff. I'm going to leave these as is so that as I add them to a journal or put them in my shop, people can add what they want to it to embellish their own journal. Guys, which one is your favorite? I love this pink and white one, and I love this butterfly purple one. The print, the newsprint, advertisements, they're just all so pretty. They're so different, so unique. I want to thank our hosts for putting this collaboration together. Guys, you don't have to go overboard with these. I think it's wonderful that you can take anything most of us will have around the house. If you don't have it, I'd like to know how you manage without it, but you can take those and create beautiful excuse me, beautiful art with it. Guys, if you like this, please give me a thumbs up. If you've not subscribed, I hope you will consider doing so now by hitting that subscribe button. If you want to know when my next video has gone live, hit that bell notification, and YouTube should notify you when my next video is uploaded. So guys, thank you so much for joining me, and don't forget to check out our hosts in the playlist below. All links to items I can find, I will link in my description box below to an Amazon affiliate link. I will receive a small commission on that if you purchase through my link, and that is a wonderful way for you to support my channel if you're going to buy this product anyway. As always, guys, stay safe. God bless. Bye for now.